It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Athletes Unlimited professional softball player, Gina Snyder. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to play professional softball?
Yeah, so actually, and I feel like a lot of softball players might have the same story, but like I never really knew like if it was going to be a thing, just because, Athletes Unlimited was never, at least I didn't know about it, was going to be a thing until last year. So until the first season. And so I think that I knew I wanted to play when I just didn't want to say no to anything like softball related, because I knew I wanted that to be in my future. So being a coach, playing as long as you can, it doesn't hurt. So that's kind of how I knew.
What was your college career like?
It was good. I started out at Purdue. I was there for 2 years, and then I redshirted just due to some injuries. I had a lot of things thrown at me that year. So I transferred to my hometown, which was the University of Arizona. So I grew up about 30 minutes from the campus. So that's kind of where I ended up towards it. So spent 5 years in college, one redshirt at Purdue.
What was that transition like from going from Purdue and playing 2 years at Purdue and then transferring and redshirting to go to your hometown of Arizona?
It was difficult just because I was dealing with some things because I was injured. So going from Purdue, being far away from home, it had its own challenges. So obviously the softball part was one thing. I was doing well. That was an issue. School was harder at Purdue, and then I had a brain injury, so that made the recovery a little bit different than just like a regular injury. So that was difficult when I went back home, but obviously like I had my support system. So as far as like a mental health state, I was doing a lot better at Arizona. But then like physically, getting back into things and then competing in the pack is a lot harder. So not only was I trying to get back to where I was, but I was also trying to elevate my game. So it was definitely difficult, but very worth it. I really enjoyed my time. So.
What were some of your accomplishments that you achieved throughout your college career?
So going to the World Series was probably the biggest one. Before my team at Arizona had gotten there in 2019, my senior season, it had been like 10 years. So being on that team and really helping that team get Coach Candrea back to the World Series, I think that was huge. That's probably my favorite accomplishment. That was my favorite game was the sweep of Ole Miss to get there in Supers. So that's by far my favorite softball accomplishment.
Can you talk about, of course, going to the College World Series and winning it for Arizona, and particularly for obviously your hometown, knowing that you came from Arizona?
Yeah, no, it was really fun. I mean, obviously, like have a lot of pride with wearing the Arizona jersey, just because it is my hometown and I really grew up idolizing a lot of the players. So being on that team to get back to competing for the title was super awesome, super fun, and it was really just an incredible experience. Even though we didn't go as far as we would have liked, it was still a super awesome accomplishment. Really fun.
What was that feeling like of putting on the Arizona jersey after, obviously, I'm sure as a kid, since you were in Arizona growing up, you probably were an Arizona fan. So what was
Mhm.
that like finally living out your fan's dream of playing for Arizona and putting on that jersey?
Yeah, it was really cool. I mean, I was, like I said, I was very proud to wear it. I had kind of looked down and saw all my hard work coming together. I think that it was really just a full circle moment, watching Arizona going to the games all the time. And then, as a kid, I didn't really know much about college softball. I just knew what was in my backyard. So I don't think I even realized like how good they really were. I just kind of took it for granted. But then once reality kind of settled in, and I was like, wow, like Arizona's like, really good. They, are always a contender for the World Series. And then I think that during my recruiting process, it seemed unattainable, but I think it kind of proved to myself really that like I could play at that level. So it was really fun. It was really nice to be able to represent my hometown and kind of what I watched as a kid growing up. So that was awesome.
Of course, coming out of college, what was it like becoming a head coach?
It was very intimidating. It was fun though. I mean, I had an awesome team, like with the Slice girls. They were a lot older, so I remember just being open and honest with them all and just kind of saying like, hey, like we're in this together. So like, yes, I'm like your head coach, but at the end of the day, like we're working together. And I think that's something big that like student athletes don't realize is that you're working with your coach. Like your coach wants you to succeed all the time. So um, I think that being able to see that side of the game and really work with my players rather than kind of like coaching them up so much, but it's kind of like, what do you think we can do to win this scenario? Like, let's talk about it. Or if they had a suggestion, I'm like, cool, let's talk about it. So we really worked together. So it was a really awesome experience, and I definitely learned from them. I think being a coach, you're always trying to learn. So learning what they know and then learning what other coaches know. So yeah, it was a really fun experience, despite being so new into the coaching and being thrown into head coaching. But it was awesome.
What was it like going from obviously playing college softball to now playing with Athletes Unlimited and playing professionally?
It's different, and especially in this environment, the Athletes Unlimited environment is very it's very hard just because everything matters. So you have the slogan is every moment counts, and like it's so true that every moment really does count because I think that with the point system it kind of makes you think more about the game, like rather than just winning the game. There's some games in college that you don't really, not you don't care about, but you don't really prepare so much for. But out here, every single athlete is so good and so competitive that, you want to go out and put your best foot forward every single time. So even at practice, like I take practices very seriously. So it's definitely um, highly competitive, but it's so much fun. I mean, it's everything I would have wanted from a professional experience. So yeah, every moment definitely counts out here.
What was the feeling like whenever you first got drafted into Athletes Unlimited, and what was that feel? How has that feeling changed now that obviously each week you get drafted to different teams?
I think mine is probably a little bit different just because I wasn't like preparing to be here. So I was a pretty late addition into the league. They needed more pitching. That's what was the difference from year one to year two is now there's 16 pitchers. So 4 on each team rather than 3. So I was a late addition. And I think that as I got the call, I um, a lot of emotions. I don't think I was prepared the first 2 weeks. So like I said, I take my practices really seriously, throwing a lot of live and doing everything I can. So I think once like the emotions kind of settled in, now I'm a lot more comfortable and now I'm having a lot more fun. But I kind of looked at it as being just like a whirlwind of emotions at first. And so like that was really intimidating, but it's definitely been so much fun and I'm so glad I did it.
What is it like to put on the Athletes Unlimited jersey and get to put on the purple and orange and blue jerseys?
It's really fun. It's cool because this environment, like I said, like it's such a competitive environment. So, every time I put on a jersey, I'm so bought in, like, like one week I'm orange and like this week I'm blue. And so like every week I'm kind of like, okay, like we're going to win for each other. Like, we take it very seriously and we're all in it together. So it's really fun, and it's fun to be out there with all these girls.
What is it like to obviously see some of your former teammates from both Arizona and Purdue play in the league?
It's fun. It's really fun, especially because at Arizona. So because I transferred, I didn't get to play with some of the girls. So I didn't get to play with Kati or Tuli. So it's really nice to finally get to play with them. There are two girls that I watched, like as I was transferring, going through that. Um, they had the regional and I think the super regional too that I went to in 17. And so I watched them compete during those. And so like I never got to actually play with them. So it's fun to be with them. And of course, it's so great to be back with my old teammates just because I miss them. And that's kind of the first thing you miss when you graduate is the girls. Like that's what makes college softball, like the experience. So I was really missing them. So love being back with them.
What are some of your game day routines and rituals that you had in college that transferred over to obviously the professionals?
I would say just kind of doing some like staying calm. So like I love to listen to music. I love to get ready mentally in like a good spot. I would say I stretch a little bit more now because I'm getting older, but other than that, not try to do too much. I'm not really big on rituals, just because you never know where you're going to be. So, and of course, comparing college to this, you're a lot more on your own. It's a lot more do what you need to do. So it's definitely different. But I just kind of do what I can to get in the right headspace.
Of course, with college and professionals being so different, what is it like taking some of your college experience, where obviously your coaches have mentored you into becoming obviously a professional athlete?
I think just the mental side of the game. I would say something that my pitching coach in college taught me was take every rep as if it's the last rep of the World Series. So, um, kind of throwing not just for a pitch count, but more so for how you feel. So some days it takes 20 pitches and I feel good, and some days it takes like 75 and then I feel good. But making sure that every single time I step onto the mound, whether it's at practice, whether it's in a game, a scrimmage, whatever, taking that rep as if it's going to be like the last rep of a championship.
Of course, being a pitcher, what is it like to have a pitch count and know obviously when is too much and when is too little?
That just comes with knowing your body. So, as I said, like I've dealt with quite a few injuries, and so one of those was in my throwing arm, and I think that knowing, how much I need to stretch or what my recovery is like, and it just kind of comes with age, trial and error. So, it's nice as professionals. I think that that's one of the biggest things that can kind of elevate your game from college to professional is knowing your body, knowing when you should shut it down, knowing when you need to push through something. So definitely gauging that from experience is pretty big.
Who are some people in the softball community that you look up to and inspire to?
Um, I look up to, so my whole thing with Arizona was I watched Taryn Mowat as a kid. She was on the team in like 07 and 06 when they obviously went and won. And so I think I was like maybe in middle school at the time, or young high school. And that was kind of like when I first started getting into watching softball. So like I said, when I was really young, I just kind of watched it. I didn't really know what was going on. But then like that was a year, my hometown team. I was like, wow, like I watched them in person. Let's follow them. And then seeing them win the whole thing, that was definitely a pretty big inspiration in my life, was watching Tara Moa, and then being able to work with her was pretty cool. She ended up getting hired the first year that I was at Arizona. So I was pretty excited to get to work with her, but she's the pitcher that I really looked up to as a kid.
Of course, what advice would you give those college athletes that are looking to play college softball?
Like to play professionally, I would say to stick with it because, like I said before, you never really know what pro softball is going to look like. And I think just staying with it and knowing that like we're working hard to grow the sport. The NPF started as one thing and now it's kind of grown into Athletes Unlimited, and without the players that played in the NPF and that kind of trailblazed that for us, then Athletes Unlimited wouldn't be a thing. And so just to know that like we're working hard to grow the sport, and if they just stick with it, work on their game, and try not to make any one college game bigger than it is. Just work hard, and don't say no. Like never say no to any opportunities, even if you don't feel like you're ready.
What advice would you give future and current professional softball players looking to play and better themselves in playing professionally?
I would say definitely get to know yourself. I think every day you practice, you want to get better, but you want to know yourself. So really being in the moment rather than like getting through things. So thinking about where your mindset is at, thinking about what your body is doing, how your body is feeling, rather than just kind of doing a workout to check it off your box. I think reps don't always count if you're not completely totally bought into them. So I would say that's probably what I would say.
Where can my listeners find you at on social media?
I am on Instagram and I'm on Twitter. So my Instagram is @ Gina Snyder and my Twitter is @Gina Snyder 24.
Thank you again, Gina Snyder, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with Athletes Unlimited.
Thank you.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at @talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Gina Snyder, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.